Hey, this is Jaden. I just wanted to make a video here. It's not going to be a quick video. Um, so it's about mold toxicity and how it affects your body. Um, I feel like I need to do this because I've been trying to help people on Reddit and stuff with mold. And I went through this last year, still going through it. And it was the hardest thing I've ever went through in my life. And a lot of prayer and a lot of faith to get through it. But after I started getting better, I was praying a lot about why I went through this, because I think when things like that happen, significant, that there's a reason for it spiritually, and I wanted to know what God was trying to show me through this process. And the message I got was that I was allowed to go through this journey so that I would understand it very well. You understand it very well when you go through it yourself. And then so I would be able to understand this to be able to help other people going through it. Because if you don't go through it yourself, you're going to be very limited as to how much you can help somebody else, I think. And I see that with a lot of doctors and practitioners that operate in this space, that they don't quite get it. Even the ones that are in the mold space, if they haven't been sick from it, there's no way they can quite get it, and they're not going to have the empathy. And I'm not saying that they're not empathetic, but it's a different level if you've been through it yourself and you understand what people are actually experiencing. It is hard to explain. It affects you in so many different ways, and the first thing that I notice people say, that whenever I hear somebody say this, or they write it on Reddit or whatever, I immediately think mold, is they say, I feel like I'm dying. I feel like I'm dying. And that's exactly what it feels like. You feel like you're dying. And I've actually heard a doctor explain to me why that is. I think there's multiple reasons why you feel like you're dying, but he said it attacks a part of the brain, and I don't know if it's the hypothalamus or which part it was. He said what it was, I forgot. This is when I was really messed up with mold, I could barely think. He told me it affects your part of the brain. The mycotoxins get into your brain, they go into fatty tissues in your brain. And there's MRIs and show that stuff that show this, and I have an MRI that shows this, the brain damage from it. It gets into your brain, and he said it affects the part of your brain, and it has an effect on it. So it can have an effect on your blood pressure and things like that, very similar to what happens right before you die. So right before you die, your blood pressure will drop and things like that, and your body goes in a certain state before you die, and apparently it mimics that state to some level. This is what he said. This is the main guy that finally treated me, that I found that understood this well enough to actually help me after I went through many, many doctors and practitioners and functional medicine people and naturopaths and different things. So this guy knows what he's doing. So anyway, he said that, and that made some sense to me. And I've seen MRIs and things that show the brain damage and different things like that. So I think that's part of it. I think the other part is it just messes your body up so much. You're like, you must be dying. How do you get Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and MS at the same time? Like really quickly. How do you decline that quickly? Usually those diseases take years, to develop. Years and years. People live with those things for years and decades. So when you start getting these things in weeks or months, and it's getting worse that quickly, it's hard to imagine anything else that's happening to you other than that this is going to end in your death within a few months. So that's where I was at last year. And it's hard to say that to anybody. You don't want to tell people that, It's hard to communicate that. I mean, I was definitely in a place where I don't want to worry other people, So I didn't talk about that too much. But I see people say that. It's one of the first things people say, I feel like I'm dying. And as soon as I see people saying that, I'm like, I want to jump in and try to help them. So I'm doing this video to try to reach more people, because I can only reach one person at a time on a forum or through text message or whatever, and I do that, but I'd like to try to reach more people. So I don't want to make this too long, but I just responded to this post on Reddit, and I had a huge response back and forth with this person, and I thought this would be a good start to share. it might help some other people. So this person said, could this all be from mold? This is the subject. Could this all be from mold? Been living in the same house for 14 plus years. This is like really typical type of a post I see. I feel like I'm literally dying 24/7. Yep. I have constant headaches, tinnitus, that's ear ringing, white noise, which I think is in the ears, muscle spasms, I call them micro twitches, all over the body, like every muscle in your body just going nuts. Internal vibrations, like, if you've never had it, it's hard to explain, but if I say it feels like there's a big diesel truck outside your house, vibrating your house. And that's when this first happened to me, that's what I thought was actually going on. I thought there was a truck outside my house. And then it was like 3 in the morning all the time. And after like a week or two, I'm like, why is there a truck outside my house at 3 in the morning? And I went outside and looked, there was no truck. And I'm like, okay. Then I'm like, what else is vibrating in my like room, my bed? I'm like, I asked my wife, and nothing's vibrating. Just me. I'm vibrating. So, and actually, like, I had my wife like put her hand on me, and she can't feel it. So it's a sensation. I don't know if there's actually physical vibration or not, if it could be measured or not. My wife couldn't feel it. It feels like, to me, like my body is like just buzzing, and your like ears are buzzing, and it feels like you're just like literally hooked up to an electrical wire, and you're being electrocuted. Is kind of what it feels like, a little bit. Okay, internal vibrations, breathing issues. Yep, a lot of people get lung problems from inhaling the spores, asthma, things like that. Brain fog, memory loss, extreme anxiety. Yep, I understand. I've also heard this described as like suicidal anxiety, and I can relate to that. You have so much anxiety that you can't imagine going on another day in your life and doing this. That's how bad it is. You just can't imagine how you can make it to the tomorrow. So it's like a suicidal level of anxiety. Heart palpitations, light sensitivity. He says occipital neuralgia. I don't know what that is. Neuralgia is related to your nerves, I think. Balance issues, white and black bursts of light in my vision, pressure in my head, ice pick sensations in my brain. Yep. I haven't had all of these things, but I've had a lot of them. Vertigo, panic attacks. Yep, panic attacks. I had that a lot. Feeling numb to emotions, like you're. It's called derealization, I think, as people call it. It's like you're walking through water, or like walking through like the whole world's like an aquarium or something. It's almost, or like you're in a movie and you're like walking through it, but you're just viewing it, and maybe you're not actually there. There was a lot of times last year where I was almost like, I'm not sure if the people around me see me. Like it's the feeling I had. And I never let anybody know this, but I would be watching for things to prove that they could actually tell I was here. So, because nothing feels real. It feels like you're in some sort of a lucid dream or something. That's just because your head's being messed with by these toxins so much. Panic attacks, feeling numb to emotions, lump in the throat, hard to swallow, difficulty swallowing, feeling like I'm in a dream, severely sleep deprived, insomnia. I didn't sleep for days. That's a very common symptom, is not sleeping for days. And when you don't sleep for days, you get really messed up. It's really bad for you. No matter how much sleep I get, you don't feel rested because you're not actually getting real sleep. Probably 1,000 other symptoms. This is from the post that I can't recall anymore. GI symptoms are really common. Bloating, constipation, diarrhea, loose stool, things like that. Food sensitivities are really common. Histamine intolerance, mast cell activation. It's all constant, probably 10 times worse than you imagine. This is what this person says. It's hard almost to read this. It's like, I'm trying not to get too emotional about it, but you can feel what this person's going through. I can feel it because I went through a lot of this. I'm planning to take my own way out if I don't get rid of all this soon. This is also very common in these posts. It breaks my heart. Because I can't live like this anymore. Can't even walk straight because of all this. Please, God, let this end up being mold so I can get rid of it. Wow. So that's, yep. That was exactly where I was at in June of 2023. This person actually has worse symptoms than I did, and I thought I couldn't go on. So this is why I try to help people as much as I can, because it's catastrophic. So then this person responded, added a comment. Oh, I think I mentioned doing. Let me pull up my first comment here. See, somebody said this could be mold. A few people said that. I mean, anybody in this forum probably has had molds to understand that. As you've gone through this process, it starts to make more sense to you. You see this, you're like, oh yeah, that's mold. This person says 100% that's mold toxicity, which is very similar to what I say. Like, yes, there's no, like, we're not doctors, but what you're describing is mold. Now I'm always a little cautious to say it with that much confidence because I'm not a doctor and there can be other things going on. But I do want to give people some assurance that, like, okay, there's a really good chance that that's what's going on here. And it's actually good for you if that's what's going on because you can fix it. Mold is pretty much treatable. Most people, they may not fully recover to 100%, but 80, 90%, some people 100%. It's not like some of these other things like if you truly had Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, things like that are not curable or whatever. Those symptoms occur in mold, but if it's mold causing it, you can generally reverse all of it, or most all of it. It's not easy, but you could do it. Let's see. Let me see. I want to look at my comment here. This person says that sounds a lot like what you consider mold illness, which is more broadly called Biotoxin Illness or CIRS. Yep, so there's a CIRS, the Shoemaker protocol, the CIRS thing. I think everybody should understand what that is and look into that because I think it's good to know. But that's not the only way to treat mold. And I want people to know that that is not the only way to treat mold because a lot of people go through the Shoemaker protocol and don't get better. So Shoemaker might help a third of people or half of people or something like that. I don't know the percentages. But the other half or 2/3 of people need to do other stuff. And Shoemaker might be the start of what they do. And there's lots of information online about Shoemaker and CIRS, so you can look into that. Let's see, sinusitis infection. Yep, could be, and caused by mold. Let's see. Yep, this person just kind of agreeing with all the symptoms that they have the same symptoms. I said, yes, this sounds like mold. I had very similar symptoms. I try to be short and concise with my responses because there's so much information out there. I just want to tell people what helped me, and they can, either it resonates or it doesn't, and they can move on, and if it resonates, then we'll talk some more. I said, yes, this sounds like mold. I had very similar symptoms. I recovered using hyperbaric oxygen therapy, ozone IVs, glutathione IVs, and phosphatidylcholine IVs. 40 rounds of hyperbaric or 20 rounds of IVs, 20 plus rounds of IVs is very powerful. These IVs specifically, phosphatidylcholine, glutathione, and ozone. The phosphatidylcholine and glutathione is called the PK detox protocol or Patricia Kane detox. Phosphatidylcholine IVs are hard to find. So that's what I would look for. Most IV places will offer ozone and glutathione, but many don't offer phosphatidylcholine. So try to find phosphatidylcholine, and then you'll have the other two automatically. Hyperbaric oxygen, you want to get a hard shell chamber that's 2 atmospheres or greater in pressure. Soft shell hyperbaric, probably not worth doing. It's usually 1.3 or 1.5 atmospheres. It will, it's not, it is therapeutic. It has benefits to the body, but it's not going to be enough to really move the needle for you probably. You need to be in this hard shell 2 to 3 atmospheres of pressure, hyperbaric with pure oxygen.